Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones.
Some houses don't just hold possessions, they trap entire lives. And some deaths don't end with a grave, but with cold rubble. Where a home was razed a year after its owner's passing, a house once alive with soul music vanished quietly, as if it never existed. The man who made America swoon with me and Mrs. Jones, Billy Paul, died as silently as that house. What happened in his final months? Why was the home tied to this legend, demolished without mercy? This isn't about real estate, it's about a memory erased. Prepare yourself if you seek the truth, for what lies beneath that shattered rubble is heavy. On December 1st, 1934, in a quiet corner of North Philadelphia, where gospel hymns and jazz melodies slipped through window frames, Paul Williams let out his first cry. Raised in a modest family, music was woven into daily life. Their simple wooden home echoed Nat King Cole and Billie Holiday, mixed with the hum of an old phonograph. His hardworking mother sang church hymns, while his father, a factory worker, brought tales of jazz clubs he secretly visited after shifts. For young Paul, music wasn't just joy, it was a fragile hope in a life of scarcity. But poverty's life was never calm. At 5, Paul watched his twin sister, Pauline, nearly die from a prolonged fever, with no money for medicine. His mother could only pray in silence. Pauline survived. But those months left Paul with a lingering fear of life's fragility. Music ceased to be mere delight, it became a sanctuary, a private world to escape his parents' arguments, meager meals, and the helplessness that surrounded him. In June 1945, at 11, Paul began singing not in church as his mother hoped, but at local talent contests. The scrawny boy took to small stages, delivering ballads and jazz learned from the radio. Audiences cheered, but not all were kind. At a nearby neighborhood contest, he was mocked for his gentle voice, called bland. The hurt lingered for days, but instead of retreating, Paul dove deeper into music, studying Ella Fitzgerald's records, mimicking her phrasing, determined to prove his soft voice held power. By early August 1947, after persistent effort, Paul performed on WDAS radio. His clear voice captivated the neighborhood, earning him the nickname Child Prodigy, a title of pride and pressure. His parents pinned hopes on him, expecting his talent to lift the family. Each public appearance demanded he sing better, shine brighter. He enrolled at West Philadelphia Music School, later moving to Granoff Music Academy. His talent was recognized, but warnings loomed about the thorny path for a black boy. On February 1st, 1952, Paul stepped into professional music as Billy Paul. Long nights in Philadelphia's smoky jazz clubs, where noise drowned his voice, shattered youthful dreams of stage glamour, covering Nat King Cole. He tried winning crowds, but earned only spare change and indifferent glances. His first single, Why Am I?, recorded in a small studio in March, faded into obscurity, returning to the cramped family home, where his mother still sang to ease survival's strain. Paul wondered if his dream was real. In June 1955, a setback hit, drafted and sent to Germany. Paul was pulled from the stage as his ambitions took shape. Assigned to an entertainment unit, he performed alongside Elvis Presley, soon to be a cultural icon. While Elvis won hearts, Paul remained a background act. Subtle discrimination fueled his frustration, which he poured into late-night journal entries in the cold barracks, vowing his name would be known not for his skin, but his voice. Back in Philadelphia by May 1957, Paul returned to clubs. Jazz was fading, overtaken by R&B and soul. Sensing the shift, he adapted, leveraging his smooth, soulful voice to catch the trend. He found footing in black community bars, where listeners embraced stories told through music. Joy doubled in October 1958 when, at a small venue, Paul met Blanche Williams, smart and strong. Her presence was a radiant light amid his struggles. They married in June 1959, and Blanche became his emotional anchor. But their marriage wasn't smooth. Blanche wanted success, but also a stable husband. Paul, chasing stage lights, felt torn between love and ambition, a rift growing not just from external demands, but within his heart. Tragedy deepened in April 1960. His father, a musical encourager yet a looming pressure, died suddenly of a heart attack in March. The loss struck like a hammer, leaving Paul reeling. At 26, he became the family's sole provider, inheriting small debts. Responsibility weighed heavily, and he turned to alcohol to cope a seemingly harmless habit that grew into a haunting shadow. His mother, now alone, stressed family duty, intensifying the strain. Paul threw himself into gigs, singing anywhere from quiet New Jersey bars to tiny New York stages, but success remained elusive. In September 1965, a small chance emerged. An independent label invited him to record. He poured his heart into each note, hoping to change his fate. But the singles vanished unnoticed. Critics saw him as skilled but lacking identity. Audiences barely cared. The reviews cut into his fragile pride. Paul began doubting himself, tormented by whether he belonged in music. Blanche, his steadfast partner, grew weary. She craved stability, tired of waiting through nights steeped in liquor and disappointment. Paul faced mounting pressures until March 1968, when a friend introduced him to Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff, young producers building Philadelphia International Records (PIR). They saw what others missed: Paul's silky yet intense voice. In January 1970, he signed with PIR. His debut album, Ebony Woman, released in August, earned critical nods but little market impact. Paul felt his long-awaited chance slipping away. His career teetered, and his personal life fared no better. Amid financial strain and unfulfilled dreams, his marriage to Blanche grew tense. Frequent arguments drove Paul to sedatives, an unconscious choice pulling him toward a dangerous path. In March 1971, a spark ignited in PIR's small studio. Paul entered with burning desire. Sweat soaked his shirt, but his heart held fierce belief this could be life-changing. Gamble and Huff, champions of raw music, gave him Me and Mrs. Jones, a forbidden, aching love song. Paul saw his fracturing marriage mirrored in it: the distance, late nights, liquor-scented returns. It wasn't just a song, it was a confession woven into every note, every anguished tone. On April 15, 1972, the final recording left the studio crew silent, Paul's tender yet raw voice gripping them. Released in October, 360 Degrees of Billy Paul exploded, with Me and Mrs. Jones hitting #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 by December 23rd. The hit swept from Philadelphia to Tokyo. Paul, once a shadow in dim bars, became soul's new icon. Money flowed. And in January 1973, he and Blanche moved to a spacious Philadelphia apartment, buying a Mercedes-Benz, a symbol of their rise. But this dazzling light opened a new tragedy. Success didn't bring peace, it widened their marital cracks. Blanche, now Paul's manager, pushed for superstardom. Paul, swept into late-night parties and lavish living, began using cocaine first to stay alert, then as a crutch. In May, Blanche found a packet of white powder in his jacket. Her anger and disappointment met Paul's evasions. Deep down, he feared Me and Mrs. Jones was his peak, a height he'd never surpass amid pressures from fans, PIR, Blanche, and his own dread. A month later, controversy struck. PIR chose Am I Black Enough for You as the next single, a bold Black Power anthem reflecting Gamble's vision for PIR as a social voice. Paul, though he recorded it, felt uneasy. He didn't connect with its heavy politics, craving to sing of love, not struggle. But Gamble prioritized the label's direction. Released on July 10th, the song sparked backlash. Southern radio stations banned it, deeming it provocative. White fans, who loved Me and Mrs. Jones, turned away. Sales plummeted, leaving Paul with layered disappointment. He felt pushed into a game he didn't start, a pawn in a strategy he didn't choose. Tensions with PIR grew. In November, War of the Gods continued the social message trend. Critics praised it, but mainstream audiences stayed cold. Paul's once vibrant career showed signs of fading. Packed venues in Chicago and Los Angeles thinned. In lingering despair, he leaned on alcohol and cocaine. Blanche, trying to steady him, was drawn in. In February 1974, at a friend's party, she tried cocaine. What began as a fleeting thrill became a shared addiction, binding them in darkness. In 1975, Paul tried to rebound with Got My Head on Straight, released in March, returning to Gentle Soul. He hoped to recapture fans, but nothing outshone Me and Mrs. Jones. He felt trapped. His desire to revisit jazz, his childhood love, was quashed by PIR's focus on profitable R&B. A tense June confrontation with Gamble, pleading for artistic freedom, met cold reminders of his debt to success. Their relationship grew suffocating, and Paul felt like a tool in a machine that ignored his true desires. In October, when Love Is New arrived, with Let's Make a Baby released in early 1976, its sensual pro-family lyrics drew fierce backlash. Jesse Jackson called for a boycott, deeming it improper. Many radio stations complied, though some black DJs quietly supported Paul, noting unfair treatment compared to similar artists. The misinterpretation of a song about love and family wounded him deeply, tarnishing his image, especially among conservatives. The deepest pain came on April 5, 1976, when Pauline, his twin sister, died in a car crash outside Philadelphia. Their sacred bond, her early belief in his talent, made her loss a void he couldn't fill. To honor her, he reworked Paul McCartney's Let 'Em In, released in August, performing it. He hid searing pain. Audiences heard soulful notes, unaware his heart broke with each beat. Blanche couldn't ease the grief. Both turned to cocaine, not for thrill but to numb relentless pain. By late 1976, Paul and Blanche left Philadelphia, moving to Blackwood, New Jersey, on December 10th, hoping for a fresh start. Their new home, adorned with Eastern artifacts they cherished, symbolized a peaceful, fulfilled life. But reality exposed its cruelty. Me and Mrs. Jones' earnings dwindled. Later albums flopped. Paul borrowed heavily to sustain their lifestyle, while Blanche opened a small dress shop in March 1977, which struggled. Arguments flared, fueled by debt and their growing addiction. Paul, in rare lucid moments, saw a stranger in the mirror, no longer the artist at his peak. His golden era faded after Am I Black Enough and Let's Make a Baby controversies. He felt trapped by his past. PIR, once his launchpad, became a barrier. With Gamble and Huff focusing on new stars like Teddy Pendergrass, Paul was left behind, a weary warrior sidelined. The Blackwood home, meant for peace, grew heavy with gloom. Debt mounted. Blanche's shop faltered. Paul took any gig from grim European clubs to rundown U.S. stages. Audiences demanded his old hit, as if he had nothing new. The pressure eroded him, driving deeper cocaine use. In May 1977, Blanche found him unconscious in the living room, an open sedative bottle nearby. Panicked, she roused him, begging him to stop. But Paul's slurred promises held no conviction. In 1978, Paul tried to revive his career with First Class, released in March. He poured his heart into it, but Disco's Rise deemed his soul outdated. The album flopped, missing charts. Paul felt abandoned. He told Blanche he wanted to return to jazz, but she shook her head. Jazz wouldn't pay bills. Their love, once a foundation, became a source of strain. Blanche, still loving him, couldn't escape her own worsening addiction, using cocaine to fill voids when Paul was gone. Both drifted in a white storm, unable to turn back. In November 1979, tragedy struck again. His mother, who'd nurtured his music love, died of heart disease on the 15th. The loss shattered his fragile spirit. He recalled her singing hymns in their childhood kitchen. Now gone, she left him adrift in a cold world where music no longer saved, missing her funeral for a Paris gig. Guilt haunted him. Alcohol, sedatives, and cocaine became a toxic brew he willingly consumed. Blanche tried pulling him back, but her own addiction faltered her. Their home, once a symbol of hope, became a dim mansion of silence, fights, and broken memories. From 1980, Paul's name faded at PIR. Gamble, who'd promised stardom, chased new ventures. Paul felt betrayed, believing without restrictive contracts. He could have been a jazz icon like Al Jarreau. Instead, he was molded into a political artist he didn't choose. In an April 1980 meeting, he voiced frustration over PIR's control. The cold response left him feeling he'd lost part of his soul. By July 1981, Paul and Blanche faced crisis. Their Mercedes-Benz, a symbol of glory, was sold to cover debts. Blanche's shop closed soon after. They risked losing the Blackwood home. Paul took grueling European tours to stay afloat. Each return widened the gap with Blanche, who, tired of living in a hit's shadow, craving normalcy Paul couldn't provide. In 1985, Paul tried reinventing himself with Lately, released in June, experimenting with modern sounds. He hoped to catch up, but critics called it soulless. Labeled a one-hit wonder, he felt caged. During an October Amsterdam show, drunkenness nearly toppled him. Applause felt like pity, not admiration. Back in Blackwood, the dusty house once a haven reflected rotting dreams, confronting him with unnameable defeat. In March 1987, a flicker of hope came at a Philadelphia soul tribute, Singing Me and Mrs. Jones. Paul felt alive again. The crowd's standing ovation was a brief miracle amid darkness, but reality crushed it. Days later, on March 12th, he found Blanche unconscious in the kitchen from a sedative overdose, saved. The incident was a harsh wake-up call. In May, they entered rehab together. Withdrawal tormented them. Tears fell nightly. Though still in love, they fought an unnamed beast. By 1990, Paul's U.S. presence vanished, while peers like Luther Vandross shone. He was a fading memory. European gigs brought unstable income. In August, he learned most Me and Mrs. Jones royalties never reached him, due to PIR's unfair contract. The injustice choked him. But reclaiming justice was futile. The Blackwood home, once hopeful, became a somber refuge bearing old wounds. Paul and Blanche lived quietly, scraping by, carrying scars that never healed. In 1995, at 60, Paul's face bore deep wrinkles, his once bright eyes clouded by years of addiction. Blanche stayed, their bond now like survivors of a storm. They'd beaten addiction post-1987 rehab, but emotional scars lingered. Paul saw his life as an unfinished song full of lows, regrets, and a quiet fade into shadow. PIR's injustice lingered. In a March 10, 1995 Guardian interview, Paul revealed receiving little Me and Mrs. Jones royalties. The 1970 contract cost him his due. He felt exploited. His talent built PIR's empire. But when unprofitable, he was discarded. Though angry and considering a lawsuit, he faced the grim reality of slim chances. He performed on, swallowing rage to survive. In June 1997, invited to a Philadelphia soul tribute, Paul sang Me and Mrs. Jones with his last embers of passion. Sparse applause evoked 1972's glory, but the moment faded back in Blackwood. Blanche, working part-time, mentioned mounting debts. They sold their Eastern artifacts, memories of shared dreams. On July 15th, as the items left, part of their past was torn away. In 2000, at 66, Paul tried reclaiming fame, recording for a small European label, but found no traction. An April 20th Billboard interview revealed his frustration at being a bygone name while peers thrived. Regret over PIR and UN fought battles gnawed. Blanche, weary, wanted quiet final years, but Paul couldn't let go of his lifelong dream. In September 2005, loss struck again. A close friend and bandmate died of a stroke on the 12th, plunging Paul into crisis. Memories of small club nights and shared dreams haunted him. His health faltered. Chronic pain, fitful sleep, and exhaustion from years of abuse. Despite heart disease warnings, Paul brushed them off. Death didn't scare him, being forgotten did. By 2010, U.S. performances ceased. European invites, where Me and Mrs. Jones lingered, were battles against age. A March 2011 Berlin show was marred by coughing fits, silencing the crowd. Back in Blackwood, diagnosed with pneumonia. He refused hospitalization, wanting his old home, still a refuge despite its simplicity. But peace was fleeting. Debt forced him to sell Me and Mrs. Jones gold records on June 5, 2011, a blow to his fractured pride. In October 2014, his final show at a small London club showed his voice, though smooth, lacked its old power. Applause honored a distant past. Back in Blackwood, exhausted, he entered his journey's end. Blanche, now elderly, cared for him with love and patience. Both knew time was short. Paul began a memoir, capturing his life's highs and lows, from glory to darkness, childhood with Pauline and his mother, to PIR's betrayals. His final pages honored Blanche, who weathered every pain with him, even when words failed. In those lines, Paul found some peace he'd long sought. In February 2016, fate closed its darkest chapter. Paul felt sharp abdominal pain, his body weakening rapidly with fatigue and weight loss. On February 10th, Blanche took him to Temple University Hospital in Philadelphia. Tests revealed the inevitable late-stage pancreatic cancer. The shock, though sudden, wasn't unfamiliar. Years of drugs, sleepless nights, and stress had taken their toll, knowing the end neared. Paul chose to leave the hospital's needles and machines, returning to Blackwood to spend his final days. On April 15th, he came home, where dreams with Blanche were woven. She stayed close, holding his hand as if to halt time, recalling their 1950s club meeting, despite his failing body. Paul smiled. He didn't complain or regret, quietly accepting the cost of a life poured into music. In his final hours, he lay still, listening to Me and Mrs. Jones on the old phonograph. The melody carried him to 1972, when the world was his, but that moment lived only in memory, beside Blanche and fragments of an unfulfilled dream. On April 24, 2016, Billy Paul took his last breath at the Blackwood home, aged 81. Cancer ended a life of loss and betrayal, PIR's unfairness, addiction's ruin, poverty, and solitude. Blanche, ever present, wept silently as manager Beverly Gay announced his peaceful passing. But for Blanche, true peace never settled in Paul's soul. His death shook the music world. Social media overflowed with tributes the next day. Questlove of The Roots called him a Philadelphia soul icon. US and European stations replayed Me and Mrs. Jones as a farewell. But Paul, if watching, might have felt bitter. His legacy was reduced to one hit, his long, tumultuous career forgotten. In May 2016, harsh reality tightened. Despite stardom, Paul left little wealth. 1980s debts lingered, and medical costs drained savings. On May 10th, Blanche received a bank notice: pay the debts or lose the house. Desperate, she searched drawers, finding an old PIR contract that fueled her rage. Millions of plays, yet near zero earnings. She tore it apart, but the act couldn't ease her gnawing pain. By June, Blanche sold their cherished items. Their Eastern artifact collection went to auction. On June 25th, a bronze Buddha statue, Paul's treasure, sold for $500, a pittance against its emotional weight. As it left, Blanche felt Paul's spirit slip away. She had no choice. But each item gone tore her heart. The already cold house grew emptier, dying with each lost memory. In September 2016, a young Philadelphia magazine reporter met Blanche on the 15th to chronicle Paul's life. Struck by the home's stark simplicity, Blanche recounted their highs, Me and Mrs. Jones, PIR's conflicts, and Paul's lonely addiction battle. She pointed to the old phonograph that played his final song. Published on October 1st, the article stirred soul fans but couldn't alter Blanche's reality or Paul's fading legacy. In March 2017, a developer offered $200,000 for the Blackwood home, enough to clear debts and move Blanche to a smaller place. Blackwood, once quiet, was drawing young Philadelphia families. Blanche hesitated. The house wasn't just shelter, it witnessed her and Paul's life dancing to jazz, exhausting fights, quiet evenings when Paul sang at dusk, but reality left no room for nostalgia. On April 20th, 2017, a year after Paul's death, Blanche signed the sale papers, leaving. Tears fell on the worn doorknob. She took the phonograph and a few photos, remnants of a once vibrant life. On June 10, 2017, the house was demolished. Developers built modern townhomes, erasing any trace of Billy Paul's home. Blackwood transformed, and a 1970s artist's memory couldn't slow progress. Learning of the demolition, Blanche, now in a small Camden, New Jersey, apartment, felt she'd lost Paul again. Blanche lived quietly, cherishing the phonograph as a sacred relic. Summoning Paul's shadow, the Blackwood home, though gone, haunted her. She didn't resent but couldn't forgive PIR, Kenny Gamble, or herself for not doing more to pull Paul from darkness. She dwelt in memories. Carrying the lingering pain, the house that held their life was now bare ground, where strangers built new lives, unaware of Billy Paul.